Welcome to the Security Nexus Deep Dive. We're a Maryland-based national security consultancy, and you can find out more about our work at thesecuritynexus.net. Our whole mission is to make sense of the complex world of cyber threats and strategic security policy. Today, we're diving into a threat that has quietly become one of the most significant strategic challenges of our time: commercial spyware. This is a problem that goes way beyond just personal privacy and really strikes at the heart of national security. We all carry these devices, right? They connect us to our work, our families, pretty much our entire lives. But what happens when that very device is turned into a weapon against you, or even against your country? The spread of this powerful commercial spyware is no longer just a what-if scenario for privacy advocates. It has become a real systemic threat to national and even alliance security. All right, so here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to break down what this spyware actually is. Then we'll look at who's being targeted and why it's so darn hard to figure out who's behind the attacks. After that, we'll connect the dots to why this is a massive threat for NATO, see why current regulations are falling short, and finally, we'll explore what a stronger defense might actually look like. Okay, let's jump into Section 1, the spy in your pocket. So what exactly is this weapon we're talking about? Now, you've really got to understand, we are not talking about some ordinary malware or a virus you'd get from a phishing email. As researchers from organizations like Citizen Lab and Amnesty International have shown us, this is military-grade surveillance tech. It's built by highly sophisticated private companies and then sold, often for millions of dollars, to government intelligence agencies and police forces all over the world. And this is what makes this spyware so incredibly dangerous. Research from folks like Karwan Mustafa Karim really highlights this thing called the zero-click exploit. So what does that mean? It means the target doesn't have to do anything wrong. You don't have to click a suspicious link. You don't have to open a strange file. The spyware can just be silently pushed onto a device. All that traditional cybersecurity advice we hear, it's almost useless against this. It's a total game changer. And listen, this isn't just the work of one rogue company. We're talking about a thriving global industry. The most famous one, of course, is Pegasus, made by Israel's NSO group. But there are plenty of others, like Predator, and another secretive firm called Candiru, which was confirmed by researchers at Citizen Lab. These companies, and others like them, create a whole competitive marketplace for any government looking to buy top-tier hacking tools. Okay, Section 2, high-value targets under attack. The who in this story, who gets targeted, is what really elevates this from a simple crime issue to a major strategic security threat. For years, investigations by groups like Amnesty International have shown this technology being used against civil society, right? Journalists looking into corruption, lawyers defending political dissidents, human rights activists. But a really critical shift is happening. The targets now routinely include senior government officials, top military leaders, and diplomats within allied countries, including NATO member states themselves. So why are they such valuable targets? Well, it's pretty simple. These devices are an absolute goldmine of intelligence. I mean, think about it. A senior diplomat's phone has their entire contact list, their private calendar with sensitive meetings, their real-time location data, and access to encrypted chats. If you can compromise that one device, you can give an adversary an unbelievable window into a government's most secret operations. Now for Section 3, the plausible deniability problem. This is one of the toughest parts of this whole threat. The entire system is designed to make it nearly impossible to prove who's actually behind an attack. So, how does this actually work? Well, in their research on this private spy industry, Sean Castor and Prescott Ensign laid out this chain of deniability perfectly. First, you've got the vendor, like NSO Group, who makes the tool, but they don't just sell it directly. Instead, the tech is often licensed through a whole web of intermediaries and front companies in different countries. And then, a state operator, a specific government agency, buys and uses it. This layered structure is deliberately set up to hide who's really pulling the strings. I mean, this quote from the research by Castor and Enzyme really says it all. The market is intentionally built to be confusing and opaque. This built-in plausible deniability makes it the perfect weapon for what we call gray zone operations, where a country wants to snoop around without leaving any fingerprints and risking a big diplomatic blow-up. Okay, Section 4, a threat to the alliance. So we've got the tech, we've got the high-value targets, and we've got this deniability. Now let's put it all together and see why one compromised phone in one allied capital becomes a vulnerability for the entire NATO alliance. The bedrock of NATO, its whole foundation, is Article 5, collective defense. An attack on one is an attack on all. But as analysts like Shreyas Kumar and his colleagues have pointed out, what exactly counts as an attack is changing. In our digital age, a really sophisticated spy campaign can cause strategic damage that's right up there with a traditional military strike. So here's where the rubber meets the road. A hacked diplomat could leak NATO's entire negotiation strategy. A compromised defense official's phone could reveal sensitive troop movements. And maybe the most damaging thing of all, if allies start suspecting each other of using these tools, or they can't trust that their communications are secure, it just eats away at the very foundation of trust that the entire alliance is built on. This is the new reality we're in. It's no longer just about one person's privacy. When that one person is a key government or military official, their compromised phone is a breach of alliance-level security. Full stop. So for Section 5, let's look at regulation versus reality. If the threat is this bad, what are we doing about it? Well, let's dig into why the current policies just aren't working. The main international rulebook for this stuff is the Wassenaar Arrangement, which is supposed to control exports of dual-use technologies. But, as Castor and Ensign's research points out, there is a huge gap between that goal and what's actually happening. The spyware industry is incredibly nimble. It uses complex corporate shells, operates across different countries, and just moves way faster than the slow, bureaucratic process of international regulation. To put it simply, the speed of technology and the huge financial incentives to sell these tools are just completely overwhelming our current systems of control. Governance is losing the race against the market, and it's not even close. Okay, for our last section, strengthening the shield. Given this reality, what can actually be done? Let's explore what a path forward for NATO could look like. Look, a solid defense here requires a coordinated, multi-layered strategy. Drawing on recommendations from researchers, a plan for an alliance like NATO starts to take shape. First, they have to formally recognize commercial spyware as an alliance-level threat. Then, ramp up intelligence sharing on who the vendors are and who their customers are. They need to implement strict, standardized mobile security rules for all sensitive personnel. And, most critically, they need to make it crystal clear that targeting an allied official with this tech will be treated as what it is, a hostile act of intelligence gathering. And this really brings us back to the central point of this whole explainer. The solution isn't just better antivirus software. The entire problem needs to be reframed. This is a counterintelligence fight. It requires the tools of statecraft, intelligence, diplomacy, and collective security policy, not just a technical fix from the IT department. The strategic stakes really could not be clearer. The security of these little personal devices we all carry is now completely tied to our collective defense, and that demands a fundamental shift in how we think about this, from seeing it as a technical problem to seeing it as a strategic imperative. And that leaves us with one final big thought. In an age where the most powerful weapons of espionage are invisible, operate silently, and are traded on a global market, the very idea of collective defense has to evolve. How do you defend an entire alliance when the attack can come from the pocket of any official at any time? That is the challenge facing NATO today.